It's the hard conversations we all need, but nobody wants to have. You're listening to The Huddle.
Yo, what's good? Welcome back to The Huddle. It is episode 2 of season 6.
Woo, man, I'm ready.
Listen, guys, we are excited because God is doing a new thing. In case you haven't tell, we've been blessed to step up the quality of production, and we are just all infatuated. I think I'm obsessed with The Huddle more than I've ever been in my life.
Bro, me too. Guess what? We're evolving.
We're evolving. That's right. That's what the theme of the year is for K.O.C. is evolving. And speaking of evolving, I realized through listening back that I did not fully explain why we've been gone for so long.
Oh my gosh, yeah, I did too.
Yeah, and I told y'all that we were going to talk about that. So we were working on Deception. If you guys were here, once again, thank you so much for all of the love and support shown. And when you're working on shows, it was just a little bit too much to juggle working on the show, doing the podcast, and then also moving into this facility. So that's where we've been, but we're back, and we promise we're going to stick this season out in its entirety. So we hope that you will continue to rock with us, turn your speakers up, and also, if you are listening and you have a desire to see what we look like, tell them, Austin, what they can do.
You can now tune in on YouTube.
Yes. Watch us on YouTube, and that is on Kingdom Over Castles. Everything is Kingdom Over Castles. Now, the YouTube channel is not Kingdom Over Castles, The Huddle. It's just Kingdom Over Castles, and we will pop up, and you will be able to watch us. And don't be stingy with the message, but share it, like it, and comment. Tell us what you think.
Man, I'm excited. I mean, I'm excited for y'all, but I'm not excited for me because I don't really like to look at myself like that.
I know it's a little weird. But I was lit this time though, because
I was excited.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like we
evolved.
We worked really, really hard. If y'all only knew the story, you'd be excited too. But you know, you might not know the full story, but there is somebody who knows the full story. There is somebody who we have on the show who is not a guest. He is every bit of family, and actually our former director of the Huddle when we first started. We are just super excited to welcome my boy. What's his name?
Abe.
Abe is in the building. What's up, Abe?
Hey, guys.
What's up? Yo, we are fancy, man.
The mighty Abe.
Abe is in the building. Let's go. Abe, what's good with you, man? How's it things going up there in Michigan?
Great. Cold. Just to clarify, if you hear me like clear my throat and stuff, I do have a slight cold, so that's what the noise is. All right.
Recording in progress.
It isn't coronavirus, as far as I know.
Sorry, that was our recording message. But repeat what you said.
I said if you hear the coughing or clearing the throat, it's not coronavirus. It's just Michigan cold weather. So.
It's just Michigan cold weather. No, I feel that.
It just comes with the territory up here.
So it's not flu-rona is what you're saying.
No, I sure hope not.
No, but we brought Abe on because, of course, he's family. But we want to talk about something today that I think is inspiring, and not just inspiring, but encouraging to anybody who's listening and you're in a season where you're having to grow. Today's topic is simple. You'll have to grow into it.
You have to grow into it. Man, before we really get serious right here, I have just something I want to share real quick.
Okay.
So, you know, Christmas just passed, right? We get a bunch of gifts, and you know, y'all. I know some of y'all get the socks from grandma, the pajamas from your parents. I don't know what y'all get. Most of the time, we get some type of clothes, right? Mm-hmm. So y'all know I'm recently married, and so I have an extended family now, and so one of my wives, it's her brother's girlfriend. Mm-hmm. She was so kind as to give me a gift, because I feel like if you're a girlfriend, you're not like really obligated to give somebody a gift like that. You know what I mean? Anyways, I don't give gifts anyway. Let me stay on topic. So she gave me a gift. I was like, oh my gosh, wow, like this is great. And so she was like, keep the receipt because you're probably gonna want to take them back. And I got them. She said she got a size like big. She got a size bigger because she thought I liked them longer, and I wouldn't like the short shorts or whatever. So I'm thinking maybe like a large, extra large or whatever. I opened it up, man. It's a 3X. In shorts. It's a 3X, bro. Like, and I was literally just like, I felt so offended. I said, ouch. Like, do you think I'm fat? Like, do you
wait?
Like, how did she expect me to grow into that? Like, you know what I mean? Like, and she couldn't find the receipt, so that was like the worst part. It was a 3X. Like, I could probably. She's like, it has a drawstring. Bro,
you know how much drawstringing you're gonna have to do to get in 3X?
I gotta lasso myself just to just to keep them on, bro. But it just made me think of that, what you were talking about, growing into it, because there was no possible way I was about to grow into them shorts, bro.
Well, you said something that was pretty interesting. You said you had the receipt. She gave you the receipt just in case you want to take it back. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times when you are thrust into something that's new, it's a temptation to want to take it back or to give it back or to say, like, this is too big for me. This is too much for me. I don't really want to participate anymore. And a lot of it we know is the enemy who just tells you that you're not qualified. Not, you know, and out of our thinking, we can forget that God does not call qualified people, but he qualifies called people.
Yeah.
And so I like what you said about the tag, even though the 3X is, we don't plan on growing in that way, but
nah, I'll grow
3X could be a bit much.
Yeah, that was a bit much. I like what you said.
After Christmas dinner though, man. Like, maybe she was just thinking ahead. Like,
that's valid. That's valid, Abe.
Possibly. I don't know at what point, Abe, would we tell Austin, "Hey, man, you're 3X."
It's too much. Too much.
It's getting to be too much.
Man, I just can't even imagine. I can't imagine.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. But no, seriously, when you're put into something or you're thrust into like I said earlier, a leadership role or like marriage for you, anything in ministry, anything new, Abe, career wise, it can be overwhelming. How do y'all deal with that?
I'll let you go first, Abe.
Geez, feel like interviews again. Getting thrust in stuff. I mean, coming up here, I mean, you guys know my story. I'm not sure, not many of the people listening in maybe do, but when I moved from Florida coming up here, I really didn't know what I was coming up to. I didn't know what to expect. And I guess it was true even when I came down to Florida, when I first started as a teenager. And for me, getting thrown into those things you don't really see it coming. I haven't. Maybe other people are more insightful on what God's got going for them. But I could never see the path. You know, I could never have guessed how things would go. I didn't want to go to Florida, but it happened and it was great. And I obviously made the relationships and stuff I had there, and grew into finding a closer walk with God in my day to day. Found great accountability and family, you know, extended family down there. That just, you could have never begin to know that that's what it was going to grow into. And then coming up here with the career stuff that I've got going and stuff, trying to get into a police department and stuff, and seeing how you have to grow, even if it's something you are working towards, even if you've got that slight idea. How much stuff you have to grow into that just comes along with it, you know, because you can't see around every corner, you know?
Yeah. That's good, man. When you were talking, man, I couldn't help but think about growing pains, because, you know, we know that it was tough when you were making that transition back to Michigan, because we had developed, you know, pretty strong and close friendship, all three of us, and then you left, and it was very painful, but we knew that there was purpose tied to it, that was your journey to growing deeper and growing into what God was calling you into. There was something here that God couldn't do. There was something that God couldn't give to you until you were in that place that you are now. And you know, I don't know if you.
And how often we desire, we so often desire something that we see we have to grow into it. We may even realize that we have to grow into it, but we want it right now. We don't want to do the growing process, or at least, I guess I can only speak for me, but that seems to be my over and over, where I look ahead and I'm like, that's what I want. And I know it's going to be different. I know I have to go through it, but I don't want to go through that, the pain, the growing pains, like you called it.
That's really good, because so that offers us two perspectives, because one is encouraging, like telling people, you know, you'll grow into it. Don't be discouraged, because it seems like it can be overwhelming. But then another one is also encouragement, and also, I don't know if I want to say like a warning, but also telling people that to get there, you're going to have to grow into that. You see what I'm saying? There's two perspectives here, because a lot of times, like Abe said, we are wanting to rush a season or rush into something, and we do want to skip the growing process. But with elevation just comes new responsibility. Here's my question to you, bro. When you went home, because that's home. Shout out to Detroit, Michigan. I had to do it. But for you, going back home, first of all, you came from Michigan here, which is strange, and then you adapt and you get used to being here. But then you leave here and you go back home to Michigan. Did you feel like you were out of place when you went back home? Was there more growing to do? Because we don't ever think about when you go back to your hometown, you have to grow.
Well, the other thing is you forget that other people are growing too. I came back to Michigan, and there was definitely the fears of what my life was going to be like, with just the entire world as it is, with coronavirus, with everything going on in the world and all that. But I thought somehow that when I came back to the place where I grew up, where I spent my childhood, I thought everybody was going to be the same when I got here. I thought I was going to step back into the world that I remembered. That doesn't happen, man. Everybody's going through those same growths that you were on their own journey. They're doing their own thing. So I get back here and I'm thinking it's going to be me and the boys hanging out every weekend. 3 of the guys are married. 2 of them have got kids.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, I forgot. Everybody else is stepping right along. So yeah, it was definitely it was weird, as I was lost at home, basically. Like, I know this life up here. I know what life in Michigan's like. Families here, there's the comfort of it. But at the same time, I got back here and then I'm like, I don't know any of this, It was different. It changed while I was gone. Wow. So yeah, that was a challenge to, just to step into a world that I knew, but was completely different.
Wow, that's something you don't think about all the time. And I could ask you that because, Ebony went back home. My sister, she went back to Michigan. And, now she is in this process of finding herself again at home. You know what I'm saying? So it's that's kind of strange. When I was thinking about this, and I knew we talked about it today, like, hey, come on the show. That's just how random we were moving and quick. You'll have to grow into it. Reminded me so much of David when he tried on the armor and it was too big for him. And I've been in situations where God has asked me to do things or trusted me to, like, for instance, K.O.C. At the time, I did not think that I could do something like this. And I told God that. I was very clear that I can't do this. And he was very clear, like, yes, you can. But the thing that was so interesting is, like, I look at stuff that we're able to do now that I did not have the knowledge of at the time when I first started. And was this a vision in my head for us to elevate? Yes. Do I see more things? Yes. But now I feel like I'm a lot more calmer and a lot more relaxed, trusting that I will, in fact, grow into where I need to be. Because sometimes the enemy will trick us and make us look at the whole picture and, like, oh my God, if this is what I'm going to do. Like, for instance, getting married and having kids. Instantly the enemy can take you to, how are you going to afford all this? How are you going to pay for bills? How are you going to pay for if they get sick? What are you going to do? What are you going to do? What are you going to do? And it's like, well, hold on, we'll grow into it. Like, we'll get there. Or like starting a business, you automatically, when I started, was like, how am I going to file taxes? How am I going to afford to pay for all this stuff? And it was like, just take it easy. You'll grow into it, and I always say that God never leads you somewhere that he can't sustain you in. Where he guides, he provides.
That's right.
But that is not what you think when you are faced with the challenges of growing. Like, we talk about growing as a good thing, which it is, but we also, I feel like, sometimes ignore how scary growth and success can be.
Yeah, absolutely. Man, I can't help but think about in John chapter 6, when right after Jesus had performed the miracle of feeding the 5,000, and it goes on to say that they were looking for Jesus, and Jesus then begins to explain to them that he is the bread of life, and that the spiritual world is much deeper than physical bread. But we also know, if you've read it, that it says many of those disciples deserted him. And he turns to the 12 disciples that you see in the Lord's Supper pictures, and he asked them, will you go away too?
Yep.
And obviously, Peter responds and says, where else will we go, or to whom else will we go? And as it relates to evolving and growing into it, I think you get to a certain place in your life where you've seen God work so much that trying to go back to something old wouldn't do you any good. You know what I mean? So it's like you have two choices. You can grow, or you can go back and live in something that's no longer there. Live in a fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so for you going back home, you can either grow and
that's what I
adapt,
was just about to say.
or you can just continue to live in a fantasy of what was. And so I think about that, like as believers, like obviously we know our walk is never going to be easy, and God constantly grows us and challenges us. But I think that there are people who go through tough times in their walk with Christ, and sometimes think maybe this is too hard. Maybe, like you were saying, I can't do this. Like I'm not cut from this cloth. And God is telling us you'll grow into it. That's the process of sanctification. That's the process of just staying with Him and trusting that in His timing, He'll deliver you from the things that you're struggling with. He'll provide for you in ways that you never thought He could or would, and you just continue to grow in your faith as you take it day by day. So, I thought that was all.
Yeah, I'd just say something you said there, talking about how you don't fit there anymore. By the time I got back up here, when I was thinking I was just going to step back into the world I was at, I didn't think about how much I had grown either. I saw it in the people around me, my family and friends that stayed here, that I came back to. But then I didn't fit into the life I'd left behind either. Even if they had stayed the same, I wouldn't have fit into that same mold, because I had grown in my years in Florida. I'd learned so much and grown so much that unless I wanted to move backwards, which is never a good idea, then I wasn't going to fit into that world either, even if I wanted to.
Wow, that's a good observation. I have a question for both of y'all. What is something that you were thrust into that you had to grow into? Like, what was something that was, overwhelming? Like, I don't know, maybe I want to keep that receipt, take it back. What was the thing that you thought, like, okay, this is too much for me?
You want
to
go
ahead?
Okay.
No, you got it.
Obviously, my first temptation is, being a husband. But I think something that's closer to my heart, because it's something that I've been walking in a little bit longer, is preaching and ministry. When I first, felt the call to preach, I was like you, LA. I was like giving God 100 reasons as to why I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
I said, nah, that's not really my style.
Yeah.
Like, I'm quiet, I'm shy, a number of different things that I used to hide my gifts behind. And I remember actually telling God one time after I preached, and I felt like I just messed it up. I said, God, I'm never doing this again. I will never preach again. You can count on that. I have the faith to believe that. That's what I was telling God. And God probably just laughed at me.
God said, okay, bet.
Man, but I learned a valuable lesson in that encounter with God, because I remember telling Him, that the only way that I would ever do it again is if I could feel Him with me. If I knew it was Him and it wasn't me, because He had to allow me to go through the pain of trying to do something in my own strength, so that I could understand that what He was calling me to, I never could do in my own strength. And so through my frustration, I declared a truth that He wanted me to get the whole time. I said, God, I'll never do it again unless you're with me. And He said, bingo, now we can move. And I remember the next message that I preached, there was just this anointing on me that I could feel, and God was just flowing. And I said, wow, like, that's amazing. And not because I was the one saying it, but I could just feel that the Lord was speaking through me, and it really blessed some people. And so that was a big thing for me where, I just had to continue to trust the Lord, because I would have to go back. And there were times where I was like, Lord, I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
And he remember, just stick with me, and you're going to grow, you're going to get better, and I'm going to teach you, and so on and so forth. So,
yeah. Abe.
Yeah. Is that Renly, the dog?
Renly, what's up? Yo, meet Renly.
He's such a pain. Hold on just a second.
Only on the Huddle. Guys, if you have a pet that would like to be on the Huddle, they're more than welcome.
Mm-hmm.
That's what did I used to call Renly? My god dog?
Something like
that. Your god dog. Is she going to come spend some time with you so she can straighten up?
Bring him. I have a role for her in the God of Miracles.
That's hilarious.
No, but what was the thing that what were you saying about growing into something?
I was trying to think. There's so many areas in your life where obviously there's that growth, but I wonder if, looking back, if I haven't kind of avoided the deep into the pool experiences a little bit more than I realized. Putting that question to me, I was sitting here, I was like, well, the moves was a big one for me. I can see that. The career stuff up here definitely was, but other than that, I'll admit, I think I've tried to avoid those deep into the pool, and maybe have missed out on some major growth opportunities because of it.
Well, I don't know if you missed out. I've seen, just from being your friend, watching a lot of big faith leaps. Like for instance, you going back to Michigan. I was there when that all started. Remember, we were having that conversation, and
that's right.
And, yeah, and he did it. And I was like, yeah, Abe, you should go for your purpose and stuff. But then it was taking him away, and I was like, yo, wait, what?
Yeah,
no, but we still wanted you to go after everything that God had for you. But that's a big step, because I remember watching you leave here, and you didn't know. There wasn't for certain that your next career move was a guarantee. You left on a maybe.
Yeah, and it's funny now is because now I'm basically, it's not official yet, I guess, but we're basically at the last step of that, and to see how much you have to trust that process of God growing you,
Right.
There were parts of it that I haven't been in school for 7 years, practically. I didn't do any college or anything like that. So going back and taking these tests and stuff, it's like there were a couple times where I was like, God, you better know this test, because I sure don't. and obviously he gave me the wisdom and stuff that it was able to go through that. But just trusting that process is difficult for me sometimes, I think, is what I was trying to express there. It's hard for me to let go and let God to bring that growth,
Yeah. No, I totally understand that. One of the things that when we were thinking about talking about this, I just felt like it was so important to talk about, because like I said earlier, we're all hype off of the new things that God is going to do, and it's a new year, and then God puts you in this place and you're like, okay, are you sure? But one thing that I've learned about God is that he never calls us to what we've mastered. First of all, we haven't mastered anything, but he never calls us to anything that we're an expert at. If you can do it without having to constantly be on your knees and asking God for help, that's probably not the area that God is, going to leave you in.
Yeah.
I've learned that, honestly, when I start to get comfortable in the area, I get nervous, because then I'm like, okay, well, then that means we're about to move on to something else. So,
yeah, bro, I think that's why, the children of Israel couldn't just walk into the promised land.
Yeah.
If you go back and you read, it says that God tells them that he'll give them the land little by little to prevent them from pride. Because if they walked in without any challenges, without any processes of actually having to trust God, then they would leave him. and we saw how easy it was when Moses went up for those 40 days to go get the law, the Ten Commandments. How quick they had turned and forgot about God and just made up their own gods. And so a lot of times I think when it comes to things that we feel we're experts at, we can almost begin to idolize ourselves or our gifts or our talents rather than trusting and relying on God and how to use them. And so I love that about God not calling you to something that you're an expert at.
Yeah, he does not do that. And, it's baffling when I hear people say things like, I am, and there's nothing wrong with being confident. There's nothing wrong with being secure in your calling and in your area of gifting, but there should always be an area that you have to go back into down to your knees, because the truth is you will have to grow into what God has called you to. There's always going to be a little wiggle room. When I was a kid and we would buy, Abe, you know about this, buying those coats for the winter, they would always buy them like a size up. 2 sizes up.
Yeah, because they ain't going back next year.
They're not going back next year. No, sir. So they're going to make that coat a little bit bigger. And my mom would say, you'll grow into it, because I'm not going to keep going back and forth. But there's a lesson in that. Because I remember being a kid and the sleeve is down here, but your arms is up here. And you you can't really fit it, and it's a little floppy. And it's hard to put it in a seatbelt. But eventually you grew into it. And a lot of times God puts us in situations and in things, and he's just encouraging us. I feel like even through this message, and I feel so encouraged because he is saying you'll grow into it. The things that I have for you, the things that I'm calling you to do. Yes, they may seem scary. Yes, they may seem overwhelming. You might be trying to figure out things that, first of all, aren't even going to happen, because the enemy loves to play our mind and make us think about things that's not going to happen. But God is saying, even through this podcast, you're going to grow into it. There's no need to worry. There's no need to stress the things that you can't reach, the things that seem so far beyond you. I'm going to get you there. And even for the people listening who refuse to accept that, who want everything right now, we have to also remember that we're going to have to grow into it. Remember, people would say Rome wasn't built in a day. Don't judge your ministry by someone who's been there longer. Don't judge your relationship by someone who's been in that longer. Don't judge where you are in your career and compare it to someone who's been there for 40 years. Well, of course, there's going to be a difference, because you're going to have to grow into it. And that's just the encouragement that I felt led to leave for people on the podcast today.
That's good.
Yeah,
that's very good.
A big part is being able to allow yourself to make some mistakes too.
Yes,
for that growth. That's. I mean, I don't know about you guys. I think it's everyone, but the best growth I've seen in my life is after the mistakes. And sometimes it was a little mistake, but usually it was a pretty big one that taught me a lesson. That gave me that major growth. We never stop growing, good or bad situations, but it always seems to me like those tough ones. The ones that really take your legs out from under you are the ones that you're like, oh, I'll remember that,
Yeah.
You got the scars from it. You can look at that anytime and be like, oh, yeah. Yep.
Yeah. And I think it's important to note, too, what you do when you do make those mistakes, because, obviously I don't want people to think that you automatically, run to, the side of, I'm going to learn from this. But there's always a temptation to take that almost as your lot in life. I'm a screw up. Yeah. I can't get this right. I've heard it put this way. You can either take life with the mindset of I'm either winning or I'm learning, or you'll take you'll look at life always from a perspective of defeat. So I think, and you have to be coached into that too, because I think there's some times where we win some, we learn some, but then there's other times where we feel defeated. Yeah. And we feel like, oh man, this sucks. I wish that I was better or whatever. And I think it all just depends on who and what you run to when you do make those mistakes. I think it's so important to not only, run to God when you need instruction, but run to him like any child would run to a good parent when you break something. Right. When you hurt yourself, run to the one that's going to take care of you, has the ability to actually take care of you and bind you up.
That's really good. Well, guys, we would not be the Huddle if we did not do what we specialize in, or at least we think we specialize in, with the help of the Lord, because we're still growing in that.
That's right.
If we didn't leave you guys with strategy, now, you know, number one is always pray. If you're watching this on YouTube, the first strategy is always to pray. Seek the Lord and ask him to show you not just the areas that you're going to have to grow in, but show you how to trust him, show you how to have that confidence in the fact that he is going to lead you and get you to where you're supposed to be. Number two, do you have anything, anybody?
Abe, you got it.
I'm sorry, it cut out there. What'd you say?
Strategy.
Strategy number two.
What's your strategic answer to help the people?
Gotcha. Sorry. I think it was the name of one of the podcasts is just trust the process, man. It's this.
Yeah.
For me, I'm always looking 2 steps ahead. Always. I mean, how many calls did you guys get when I first got up here? Man, I want it right now. I want it right now. I want it right now. And you end up, I think you end up maybe not missing something, but you sure stretch out that process. It makes it seem a lot longer.
Yeah.
If you're always sitting there looking 10 steps ahead going, no, I want to be there.
Yeah.
My girlfriend and I've been talking a lot lately, we're talking about getting married and whatnot. And we're so excited for that, to grow into that, to go to that next stage. But I keep thinking of, I think it's Trace Atkins has a song, is You're Gonna Miss This. And it's just a whole song about, enjoy where you're at and be able to see the world that you're in at the moment, because you probably won't be back there.
That's good.
That's very, very powerful.
Yeah. Okay. Number 3, I'm gonna try to keep it simple. Number 3, I would say throw away the receipt. Lose the receipt. Don't throw away any type of plan B, backup plan that is not what God has called you to. Go ahead and rip it up so you don't have the temptation to turn back when life gets hard. You know those people that never take off the tags of their new shirts, they just keep it tucked in just in case they want to return it one day.
I think this hat has a you can see the spot where I left that sticker on for so long.
Yeah,
that's funny.
Yeah, that's good though. I like that. So throw away the tag. I would say just relax. Just relax. I mean, if you're watching, just relax. Trying to figure out the 12 steps ahead, that's not even going to happen. It's only going to make the journey harder. So it's better to just relax and just keep the faith and just trust God. Trust that the same God who called you there is going to get you through. So I'd say just relax.
That's good. That's good.
Well, that's the end of strategy, and that's the end of this episode. Abe, thank you so much for joining us and returning back. It's always good to hear from you, bro. Before we leave, we want to close out with prayer. I'm going to ask Austin to do the honors. Absolutely. And then we'll see you guys next week.
All right. Well, dear Lord, we thank you for another podcast episode. We thank you for Abe. We thank you for the Huddle. We thank you for LA's leadership. Lord, we ask that the things that we discussed today would not just be things that tickle our ears, but will be things that would settle in our hearts. Lord, we ask by the power of your Holy Spirit that you will begin to transform our minds, that you would help us to evolve this year in the way that we stick to the process and just trusting in you that we will grow into it. All the things that you called us to, all the things that you're leading us to, and all the places that you have us, we will grow into it. And we believe you. We trust you. We speak blessing over each and every person listening to this podcast. We ask that it would reach thousands of people, Lord, just touching their hearts. In Jesus' name we ask all these things. Amen.
In Jesus' name, amen. God bless you guys. Thank you so much for listening. Abe, once again, thank you for returning home.
Dude, thank you so much for having me back on here.
We'll talk to you later, man.
Alrighty, guys.
This production is brought to you by Kingdom Over Castles, tearing down the walls of separation through the arts.